But now we're in the Dvar Malchut. So we're in the Dvar Malchut. It's just the camera. Dvar Malchut. Dvar Malchut, a speech given by Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1991. And in it, he's talking about that every Jew has to be like the menorah, and especially like the flames that were on the menorah. And especially one aspect of the flames on the menorah is that they went up on their own. The priest that lit the Kohen that lit the candles had to make sure that the flame went up on its own, right? Not to take his hand away before it was sure that the candle, right, we lit it, that the flame went up on its own. In addition to the fact that it's a flame, and a flame has to warm up the surrounding and illuminate the surrounding. Okay, so somehow or other, this is connected to this opinion in the Talmud that there really are 7 books of Moses, not 5 books of Moses. Not that there's hidden books we don't know anything about. No, that some people say that the books are divided differently. Instead of dividing them to 5 different books, you can divide the same Torah into 7 different books. How do you do that? In this week's Torah portion that we're learning now, you take 2 sentences right in the middle, and we call that a book. That's called a book. It brings the reasons why. It's not important. That's called a book. It's the 2 sentences that talk about when the Jewish people traveled, that the ark traveled before them, the Aron traveled before. 2 sentences. So that makes a book. And if so, from the beginning of the book of Numbers until that sentence is another book. That's the first book of Numbers. These 2 sentences are the second book of Numbers. And from these 2 sentences to the end of the book of Numbers, that's a third book of Numbers. So it ends up that there are 4 books of Moses, and the book of Numbers is divided into 3. So it ends up 7 books of Moses. Okay. So the Rebbe said, okay, you want to say it like that. Say it's good. It's an opinion. It's based on something, but it comes out sort of like not a nice thing. It comes out that the whole third book of Numbers, like you're dividing it up, is all bad things. And it starts with a bad thing about how the people were complaining to Moses. And finally, they were complaining about the manna, and they were complaining about everything. So that's not a way to start a book in Judaism. That's not a way to start. So the Rebbe said, oh, yes, it is. Because the whole purpose of the Jewish people and the Torah is to be a flame that goes up on its own and illuminates the surrounding. And illuminates the surrounding means not just illuminating holy places, but illuminating the whole entire world, and even illuminating the complaints of the world. So it'll cause this will be drawn down, this power into the world to illuminate the lowest parts of the world, until even the lowest parts of the world, it itself becomes a flame that goes up. In other words, everything in the world will realize that they are important to God. Everyone is being created by God. Same God is creating me, is creating, I don't know, the greatest savage, or the person has never been, exposed to humanity. Someone living in who knows, in the middle of the desert, people that eat each other and they eat ants and they have no idea about, anything whatsoever, right? Nothing whatsoever in the world except for existence. Just like animals, these people are being created by God. And if they can appreciate, if they have the power of appreciation, which that's the difference between a man and an animal, a man can appreciate God. Animals appreciate their owner, they're loyal to their owner, whatever it is, but they can't appreciate God. They can't appreciate the fact that they're being created. A man can appreciate the fact that he's being created. This miraculous, and he can feel even more gratitude to the Creator. And even more, he can feel an obligation to the Creator, responsibility. Animals don't have responsibility. And one of those responsibilities we have to the Creator is to be like the Creator, to make the world a good place, to create. To take everything in the world and bring out the good which is in everything in the world, the potential, like planting a seed. That's the idea of the Jewish people, to tell everyone in the world of the tremendous potential that they have within them. To the degree when everybody feels this, then they themselves become a flame which is independent. They feel, hey, God is creating me. I have the ability to make the world. True, the Torah is the instruction book, how to make the world better, what to do. But the Torah is also written in everyone's soul, down deep. When God gave the Torah, it says his voice permeated all being for all time. Kol gadol lo yasaf. So everyone felt, everyone knew, everyone was certain at Mount Sinai that God exists and that God gives us responsibility, and God is giving us free will. And we see the Jewish people really use that free will to the hilt. They worship the golden calf 40 days after they heard from God not to do it. They heard directly from God not to do it. So we see that free will is active in every situation. The lowest of the lows and the highest of the highs. The idea of the Torah is to put inspiration into our free will that we make the right choices. We drive on the right side of the street. Okay, so that's two types of serving God. First of all, working on yourself, making yourself that you are a flame that goes up on its own. And avoda ba'olam, and shining out into the world, especially serving. And this can also be another way of looking at it, working with holy things. That's working actually in the world, working with holy things and working in mundane things until the lowest possible things in the world. We say just creations. This is like the difference between the 5 books of the Torah and the 7 books of the Torah. Well, how does that work out? Let's see. According to how the Torah is in holiness, that from them comes down all the things in the world from holiness, the holiness of the world, whether we're talking about the Jewish people, whether we're talking about the Torah, they can be divided up. 1 second. Yeah, okay. 5 and 7. Let's take the 5 in Torah, 5 and 7 in the Torah. Whether with the Torah, we can say 7 is the 7 branches of the menorah. That corresponds to the 7 different types of Jewish souls. This corresponds to the 7 emotions. Some people that serve God more from love, some people more from fear, some people more from action, some people more from speaking, some people from learning, some people from charity, other people from severity. They want to be leaders. Al derech zeh, similarly, there are differences. You can divide the Jewish people and all these things up into 5 levels. This corresponds to the 5 books of the Torah. We can say that this is hinted at in Pirkei Avot. In this, there are 5 pupils of Rebbe Yochanan ben Zakkai. And this is explained also, that's the second chapter of Pirkei Avot. 5 pupils of Rebbe Yochanan ben Zakkai. We can say the Rebbe Yochanan ben Zakkai, that he was the head of the Sanhedrin. He was the greatest, in his day, he was the greatest rabbi. When he said, give me Yavne v'chachamea, when he was, Jerusalem was being destroyed. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was snuck out of the city. And he requested from the general, first of all, he told the general that you're going to become the king. And you're going to become the king. And as soon as he said that, all of a sudden came a messenger from Rome and said, you've been chosen to be king. The king died, you've been chosen to be king. And he said, well, that's pretty good. You have any requests? And he said, yeah, I want Yavne, the city of Yavne, and the wise men of Judaism. Right? You're going to kill everybody? I request that you just hold back, not kill the wise men. That was also a big doubt if he was going to get that. It says, Tafasta Maruba lo Tafasta. It says, Yesh no Kiyum, and so that the Torah at least would exist. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said he had 5 pupils. That's all he had was 5. With the fact that he had more than 5 pupils. But what it means that all of his pupils and all all of his pupils. And in general, people who learn Torah can be divided into 5 different types. And explains over there what these types are, right? One is that he learns and he doesn't forget anything, and one is that each one is a different, it explains. And so also it is that the Torah can be divided. So it also with the Torah. So we have 7 and we have 5. We have 7 books of the Torah and 5 books of the Torah. One of the differences between, okay, let me just take a short, just a parenthetical statement. The Torah is the only truth in the world. There is no other truth in the world except for the Torah. Everything that there is in the world can be found in the Torah. Yeah, we have to find it. It doesn't mean that we have to leave science and medicine and just go according to the healings. If you went exactly according to the healings of the Torah, people wouldn't be so serious. I just did a joke, by the way, the other day. I'll tell you the joke in a minute. I hope I'll remember. The Torah contains in it, but it contains in a seed way. In other words, you have to have scientists and wise men or whatever in the course of time to take out the wisdom from the Torah. It had to be taken out, but it's found there in the Torah. All the wisdom in the world comes from the Torah. You can say, one second, the Torah was only given 3,000 years ago, and there was, the wise people of India, whatever, they had these, and what about Egypt? Egyptians were tremendously wise. They had built the whole empire with all these, whatever was it, pyramids and mysteries, how they built it, and they had the Egyptian Book of the Dead and everything like that. I remember I read that book. And they had these big mysteries. They were some spiritual people. It says that Paro knew little children in Egypt, they knew how to turn sticks into snakes, things like that. So obviously they had some sort of wisdom. So the Torah was before the world. And everything that there is in the Torah, it doesn't mean you should only have Torah. Okay, now I'm going to tell you the joke. The joke is like this. Once there was a man that came to a rabbi and he said, Rabbi, I'm a religious Jew. I want to build a new house. And I want to, you would like a blessing. I said, no. I want to build my house according to the Talmud. I don't know if you ever read the Talmud before. The Talmud, there's in the middle, there's the Talmud, and there's the commentary. There's Rashi is one commentary, and then there's the Tosfot. That's a little bit later commentary, and there's other commentaries. So I want to build my house according. He said, very good, my son. You did it, the very wise thing to do. I'm going to work on this for a week, and I'll draw up the blueprints. So the rabbi works on the whole thing, and he comes out according to the Talmud. The rabbi is a big expert in Talmud, and he gives them the blueprints and they build the house. They build the whole house, and the rabbi comes the opening day of the house, the first house to be built according to the Talmud, and there's a big crowd there. Of course, all the religious Jews are there, and the rabbi, you put a mezuzah on the door, so the rabbi puts a mezuzah, and he gives a clap with the hammer on the mezuzah, and the whole entire house falls down. The whole entire house, all the work. And the man comes to the rabbi and says, Rabbi, you built the house according to the Talmud. I thought it was saying you give the first knock, the whole house falls down. The rabbi opens up his Talmud and says, oh, you know what? Tosfot asks that question that you're asking now. Okay, that joke is that. Anyway, you can't just use the Talmud from the face value, but the Talmud does contain all of the wisdom that there is in the world. So everything in the world, not only that, but the whole world is created from the Torah. Now, a normal person would say, I mean, come on, that's a little bit sort of overdoing it. But we do say that the world, this is faith. The world is created by God. And the world is very complicated. And the Torah is also very complicated. So it could be that the Torah is the blueprints for the world. Could be. Could be not. Maybe the world is just, developed like, whatever is Darwin said, it just sort of developed from, and it could be. Maybe there's just, one little quark or something like that, and it developed into this whole world. The odds are like 20 trillion to 20 trillionth power to 1, but there's more chance that the world was created from a little thing that it was created, mathematically, that it was created by God. You can't put God into a calculation. I say, okay, in any case, so it's faith. We're saying the world was created from the Torah. That's why it's so important, the idea of the Torah and the different aspects of the Torah, the 7 and the 5. So up to now, we've been talking about only good things. Echad, one of the differences between the number 5 and 7 is 5 is mainly for holy things. That includes even the service itself. And 7 is talking about dealing with the world. The world was created in 7 days, right? And how this is in the emotions, God's upper emotions. It says there are the 5 emotions there's 7 emotions. And according to Kabbalah, there's 10 sfirot of God. That corresponds to 10 aspects of our soul. 3 of them are intellect, 7 of them are emotions. The top 5 emotions, Chamesh, the 5 from Chesed until Hod, these are the main emotions. These are, so to speak, connected to intellect. That's those are more, how do you say, holy. They're not so connected to the world. But the end of the emotions mainly, I'm sorry, that's the 5. Those are the end of the essence of the emotions. The 6th and the 7th, with the Yetzod and Malchut, that's already connection to the world. That's how God comes out into the world. That's like God coming into the lower worlds, Bria, Yetzir, and Asira, the Asiya, the separate worlds. So God, another name for God also is Atzilut, the world of Atzilut. Atzilut is God, holiness, another name for God, a lot of names for God. So all of the upper 8 sfirot aspects of God, that's already sort of connected to God. But the lower 2, which is Yesod and Malchut, that's how God comes out. How he comes out into the worlds below, which is Bria, and then lower than that is Yetzira and Asiya. That's one of the differences between the Jewish people, how they are divided into 7, corresponding to the 7 branches of the menorah, that this is all of the levels of the Jewish people, even the lowest of lowest levels, those that are far away from God, that all you can say is that God creates them. That's the only good thing they've got about them, right? They're people, destructive people, they have bad ideas. There was the people who put the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe into prison, right? The Evtseksia. I mean, Stalin, they say he killed about 50 million people. And in the beginning, and the Jews were very ardent and enthusiastic communists. The Jews really believed that communism was going to take over the world. I have friends that saw this in Israel, in the kibbutzim in Israel. In the kibbutzim in Israel, they wanted to establish according to communist principles. Communist principles are just so beautiful. They're just so inspiring. So they used to have Stalin's picture on the wall in the lunchroom, and they called it Shemesh La'amim. He is the sun, the illuminator of all mankind. Stalin. I mean, he was just a debauched maniac animal. He killed, they say he killed his own, wife he killed. Anyway, Keneged Adarga Shishis, this corresponds, that's Jews that are the lowest of lowest levels. That's in the 6th and the 7th level. The Jews, there was the Asexia, they were the ones who warred against religious Judah. How many Jews they killed? In the end, they were killed themselves. And Stalin liquidated them also. Kafi, according to how they're divided, and that's how Jews can be divided into 7, the lower 2 levels, how it comes down to the world. The only good thing you can say about them is that they're creations of God. But Jews, how they're divided into 5, that's the 5 books of the Torah. That's already the holy part, the good part of the Jews. This is mainly to the holy. Similarly, also, it is also the difference between the Torah, how it's divided into 5, the 5 books of Torah, and how it's divided into 5 into 7. 5 books of Torah, since the main Torah, it's holy, so therefore it's number 5. But because the Torah needs to have an effect on the world, the Torah is not just here to create the world, the Torah is here to fix up the world. It's the instruction book on how to be a human being, how to fix up the world. The world was created in 7 days, in the 7 days of creation, and Bakal the Torah, the whole Torah was given, that's what Shalom, to make peace in the world. Therefore, Yesh Nogam, there's also the division between 7 books of Torah, and that includes all of these different levels, the 6 levels and the 7th level, which is how the Torah comes into the world. And that's why it was necessary for someone to come up with this idea of let's divide the Torah into 7. And this is also fitting to the whole idea of the 7 books of the Torah. The 5 books, the first books, their whole thing is hinting at the names Breshit, Shmot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, right? And Vayehi ben Sohar Aaron. And Vayehi ben Sohar, this is what, that's the first, if you want to say the Torah has 7 books, so the first 5 books of the Torah, according to that, they are good things. Bereshit, God created the world, the names of the Jews, God called out to Moses, God took them into the desert to give them the Torah. And according to this 7-book theory, is that when it was the 2 sentences, that's the 5th book of the Torah, when the Jewish people traveled. This is all connected to mainly good things, holy things. Creating the world, the names of the Jewish people, God called to Moses, counting the Jewish people in the desert, and when the Jewish people traveled in the desert, which is not the case. The 6th book, according to this, if we say 7 books, the 6th book, this begins with something bad. The people were complaining. And after that, it's talking about the sin of Miriam. And after that, it's talking about the sin of the next week's Torah portion, the sin of the spies. The Jews refused to go into Israel. And after that, there was the rebellion of Korach. That Korach stood up and rebelled against Moses, took all the Jewish people. And also the 7th book of the Torah, these are the words, the book of Deuteronomy is really words of reproof that Moses was harsh with the Jewish people. Since the 6th book of the Torah, there's a place for bad division. So that book, that begins how the Torah itself comes down into the world, that the people were complaining. That's the 6th book of the Torah. True, when it's written in the Torah, it's all holy. Just something like Yaakov and Esav that's written in the Torah. Both of them are, if it's written in the Torah, it's a good thing. If it's written in the Torah, then Bilam and all these terrible things written in the Torah, there must be even Amalek. There must be something good about them if it's written in the Torah. But when it comes down into the world, the fact that the Torah gives a place for bad into the world. And that's how you divide the Torah into 7. The 6th, according to the 6th book of the Torah, starts off with a bad thing. The Jewish people are complaining. So these things there's the potential for bad in the Torah. But on the other hand, we have, because it is part of the Torah, and even more, this book of the Torah begins with it. How does this 6th book of the Torah begin? Right, 6. It begins with, it's in the chapter that starts off with lighting the candles in the menorah. This means lighting all the 7 menorah until all the 7 branches go up on their own, even the bad. This gives the power that the godly light of the Ner Mitzvah of the Torah or can reach even the lowest places, until even it'll cause Shalahevet Olamei Aleh, that even the worst people, these people that were in the Evsektia, right, the worst type of Jews that could possibly have, murderous Jews that just, even they can become illuminated on themselves. And that's because the Torah comes down into the 6th and the 7th aspect of the Torah. This indicates on the completion of the Torah until there's the thing called tshuva, return. They'll just return to their true identity. Again, the message of the Torah is the world is essentially good. Man is essentially good. God is essentially good. God is infinitely close to us. God is good to us. But the world it can be very bad. That's the 6th and the 7th book of the Torah come to tell us that God wants the world to have the option to be bad, and through the Torah, the world can be rectified to be good. Until Shalemos, a tshuva, everything can return back to its true state of love of God and feeling God's love for us. And by means of this, everything will go up on its own. God creates the world that everything should be dynamic, moving, alive, vital, filled with vitality to reveal our potential. That's the whole thing, that the flame will go up on its own because it'll come by means of returning tshuva alachet, returning from bad things specifically. This is not found by the tzaddikim, holy people. They never did anything bad. When a person feels I have free will and God wants me to have free will, and I use my free will for the wrong things, and it felt good, and I want to do it again, but I'm not going to. I want to do what God wants. Ooh, this is tremendous. This is a big novelty. That turns all the bad things into good, because by means of this bad that you did, this elevates the good even to a higher level. Makes like a springboard. Because you crouch down so low, you can jump up higher. And maybe we can say that this is all the reason why the sixth book of the Torah starts off with the Jewish people complaining. That's written, and it's written in this chapter, which is called To Lift Up the Candles, since the whole intention of telling the story, right, is to give us the power. Telling the story of how the Jewish people complained all the time is to give us the power to do tshuva, to return to our true selves. Kumruz, like it's hinted at, mit onanim, with chafa dimyon. They were like, it says the people were like complaining. What does it mean, like complaining? A Jew really doesn't, in his essence, complain. In truth, the Jewish people just want to return to God. That's what they really want. And from this will be drawn down the power into the world, the whole world. We can transform everything in the world, even the lowest things in the world, that they should shine. We say in our prayers, there's a prayer called Aleinu. Aleinu. It's the last prayer in the prayer book. I think the Ashkenazim have it. It's not exactly the last. In any case, every Jew says it 3 times a day, and in it says, "Yifnu elecha kol rishei oretz." We're praying that all of the evil people in the world should turn to God. Not that you should destroy them. You should destroy the evil, but not the people that embody this evil. All the idolatry should be cut off, the bad religions and things. That's the problem. But the people are good, right? Christianity is bad. It's idolatry, but the Christians are okay. They're good. They're people like everybody else. They've just been fooled. They've been lied to. And that's the Torah comes down into the world to fix up the world. This power comes from the book in front of us, the 5th book of the Torah, by Ibn Soharon, which is according to our new calculation of number 7. How does it come from the 5th book of the Torah, according to this new calculation? These 2 sentences that when the ark travels in the desert, Moses says, may your enemies be scattered. It says, stand up, God, and scatter your enemies, and all of those who hate you will run from you. Namely, removing from the world all of the bad urges, all of the negative lies that have been keeping people away from the truth, away from their true identity. When it lands, it says, return, God, the thousands of 10,000s of Jewish of the thousands of Jewish people, namely the Shekhinah, revealing the Shekhinah, God's presence in the world. As we'll continue, God Friday is tomorrow. We'll finish. God willing, we'll finish this tomorrow. Okay. Now let us do the